Hello. Welcome to week 10 of Inside the OPEX Method. I am Candace. I have Carl Hardwick with me, CEO of OPEX and Coach X. You guys have been along with us on this journey for the last 10 weeks. I first just want to say thank you, Carl, for hanging out with me and doing these weekly recaps for the last 10 weeks. I know I had to twist
Been
your
fun.
arm to do them.
No. It's been fun.
And I don't think it's something we will do for every cohort that's going through this program, but maybe every once in a while we will pop on and do some updates. It's been a phenomenal 10 weeks with the 40 coaches that were inside this cohort. We've just completed, actually today was our last day of official course material. So we had office hours today and got to kind of close out and wrap up the 10 weeks. And then, of course, those coaches are working on their final projects, and we'll be submitting those. Carl actually grades every single one of those, so he'll get to do that over the next couple of weeks. And for those of you who are potentially interested in joining us in the next cohort, because you've been following along and you have heard all the amazing things that these coaches have done over the last 10 weeks, if you are at all interested, I would go to opexfit.com and check out the landing page about this program. You can read a little bit more about the curriculum and what everyone goes through, and just fill out that application and hop on with one of our education advisors. They will do a great job at just directing you toward any free resources that we have that could potentially solve or help you navigate any coaching challenges you're currently dealing with, and give you a bit more information about this particular program. Enrollment is officially open for the January cohort. We will close that enrollment on January 9th. I'm pretty sure that 9th. I was going to say the 8th.
Yeah,
January 9th.
I believe it's the 9th.
Yes. And then we start on the 13th. So super excited to jump in with the next group, but it's been a lot of fun. So wrapping up week 10. I feel like I'm talking a lot. Feel free to interrupt me at any given point. I'll let you do a recap on the full 10 weeks. But week 10 itself, we focused a lot on building off the momentum that we created in week 9, which was very much about developing a content strategy that helped the coaches think about how they present themselves, both in person and online, the way that they articulate the value that they bring as a coach in their own unique voice, with their own unique perspective, and how they really connect to the target audience that they coach through the most important issues or topics that coach or that client may have. And so this week we took that as infrastructure, and we talked a lot about the offer we had developed, which is essentially the method that they have learned over the full program, the message that we had crafted last week. And we talked about a very simplistic minimum viable marketing system to help increase lead flow, help them qualify and convert those leads efficiently, and then make sure that they had time and energy to really focus on what's the most important, which is their delivery of their service and keeping those clients happy for a very, very long time. Because our digital curriculum goes so into depth on the in-person mechanics of marketing and sales, in the lecture and the lab, we focused a lot on how to do this as simply as possible in social. Since we know most people are spending their time actively consuming social content, we thought it was important to give these coaches a really smart head start on how to increase the lead flow that's coming their way through social media. And I had a lot of fun just geeking out about that and talking through how to think differently, because there's a traditional digital model for doing this that seems a little bit more robust and maybe overwhelming and cumbersome for coaches who really don't want to build out a lot of marketing infrastructure. So I had a lot of fun creating a smart system that seemed like they could execute it in a couple of hours if they wanted to get that infrastructure set up and running for them, and something that would be very easy for them to maintain. So that was our focus on week 10, and we had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good because we had some really good feedback. Today specifically, I wasn't in the lab yesterday with you, so losing a little bit of context there. But today, just some good like nuggets slash questions, and I think a lot of coaches, a couple specifically in today's office hours, just kind of mention well, they said thank you, right? It was like, thank you for just like, you know, opening my eyes to a simple way to do the things that I thought I would never want to do. And I'm kind of putting words in one of those coaches' mouths when I say that. But that one coach just said like, well, like my social media has been dead for like 2 or 3 years. I forgot exactly what he said. And he's like, now he's like, there's just like reinvigoration to like relaunch that or start, playing there a little bit more. But I think he didn't say this, but I think that it's because there's like some intentionality behind it based on what you walk through over those 2 weeks. So yeah, that was really good. And I think you mentioned this at the end of today in office hours, but it's like this can be built out to be like an extremely robust curriculum from the marketing side specifically. Like this entire thing was 10 weeks, 7 weeks of just like one-to-one coaching, right? Like, how do you coach? What are principles? How do you implement? 1 week, principles of business, and then 2 weeks, principles, and then some implementation of marketing. We could definitely take all 10 weeks, and I'm sure you'd build out a very robust and helpful curriculum, kind
I
of
don't think
taking.
they would join it. I don't think they like marketing that much.
No, I think that it's funny that you say that because I think that a lot of them would now. Like, I don't think it's a great
Yeah,
entry
yeah,
point.
true.
Yeah, I don't think it's a great entry point. It's like, that old saying where it's like, you don't know what you don't know, you know? So I think a lot of like eyes were opened over the past couple weeks where they're just like, oh, marketing isn't this thing that I thought it was. And it's a lot of what you talk about on your podcast, where it's just like marketing doesn't have to be like this slimy influencer based like thing that makes you go outside of who you actually are. You're actually telling these coaches to do something completely different, which is like, no, 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 you have to be exactly who you are, but I'm going to challenge you to really be clear on exactly who you are. And it just built so nicely, in my opinion, off of, what we did over the first, 8 weeks before we toss it over to you for marketing. So yeah, it was really good. It was really good. So appreciate you, Candace, appreciate the lectures on the Tuesdays, appreciate the Thursday office hours, and appreciate all the hard work that you put into it because it's super clear that you put a lot of time and effort into the last 2 weeks, and I think the coaches felt that for sure.
I think what's important for me, and I know for you in this entire, iteration of this mentorship, is to obviously educate and make sure everyone's comfortable and confident in the principles and how they and preparing them and building their system out in CoachRX. But for us, it's like the thing that is the most critical is speed to implementation and getting them to take the actions quickly to be able to refine and to iterate. And so there definitely was some prep work, but I love that I felt good about leaving this week knowing that they can not only clearly articulate who they are and what they value as a coach, they can not only articulate who their target client is and what that client is struggling with very clearly and how they can solve that problem for that client, but they could also communicate the value of the service that they offer
Yeah.
very clearly and easily. And they have all the resources to build upon that. And I think that's the basic struggle. It's like those things are the foundation for all communication thereafter in creating a business and lead flow. And they got to leave this 10 weeks feeling so confident in not only being able to execute the service that is setting the standard in our industry, but now they can communicate the value very well to a specific client in their own voice. And that I leave this 10 weeks feeling so good about that.
Yeah. Cool. Any big like the last 2 weeks are kind of blending together for me. I feel like I've looked at like your content so much and like kind of went back and forth on some things. But like, what do you think are or if it's multiple, hit multiple, what are the biggest takeaways or the biggest takeaway from this week?
I think I'm apologies. My dog is going nuts. That I'm buzzing the e-collar and it is not effective at this moment. Wow. Apologies, live streamers. This is real life. We are in fact live. This is not edited. I think the big takeaways from this week were, again, having the foundations of like communicating your offer, communicating your message, and communicating to the right person clearly. And then the most simplistic framework for creating lead flow in digital. That was the foundation. So using the primary platforms that most coaches are active on, which is Instagram and YouTube, and not making that feel like something that is impossible to achieve, right? Gave them a realistic framework that they could execute, like I said, in a couple of hours. If they put their head down post lab yesterday and spent 3 hours over the weekend crafting the final elements that they would need to craft, their system could be up and running and they'd be effectively having lead flow, pretty quickly. And then also giving them a system to do that. It didn't require them to build out an email marketing system or a CRM or, put all these other layers of complication. In addition to that, through real conversations and messaging on Instagram, allowing them to have a very clear process for qualifying those leads that come in and just very easily making sure it's a fit and having a simple way to present their service offering that didn't feel pushy or salesy. Like they're no longer in a position where they have to convince someone to sign up for coaching. They're able to just articulate their value really clearly and say like, if this is for you, awesome. And if it's not, no worries. I take too much of their time. Like
Yeah.
they're not having to waste on calls to get through that process.
Yep. Cool. Any parting words for these 2 weeks specifically? I know we've hit and recapped a lot each week over the last few, but
Yeah, no, I feel good about it. I loved that way we exited office hours. I'm excited to go into the next cohort. And I think this also was eye opening for me. Obviously, with both of us launching the podcast to support our community over the last 6 months, it was eye opening for me to know like how much more simplified I can keep creating content in the show to make it more actionable. And that will be my focus going into next year with the content for the show. I want it to continue to be a resource that not only supports our coaches post the OPEX method, but also supports other coaches who are just trying to make things work and live their dream.
yeah, cool. I know that you said I'd recap the entirety of the 10 weeks. I'm not going to do that because it would take me entirely too long.
Well, you did
Uh,
with weeks 1 through 7 on one-to-one and one week
yeah,
on
yeah, yeah,
business.
yeah. Generally, yeah, yeah. Just walking through kind of intentions of those chunks of weeks. But yeah, I'm looking forward to rolling this again in gosh, just a couple weeks. Um, I think we mentioned this earlier. I think like week one we talked about this, but what I really love about essentially rinse and repeating the same quote unquote content for these cohorts is when we do it, the repeat is never exactly the same. It's always it's like rinse and refine. So just refining every cohort. Um, and it's like I'm not saying that, we're just using like the coaches that are going through it to like just continue to make it better, but we actually are, right? Because we're learning things as we go. What's hitting, what's not hitting, what are coaches facing that may be different than what they were facing a year or two ago. What are better ways to convey information to allow it to hit? And you know, the interesting thing about what we're doing now is everything that we're doing in the OPEX method is very synergistic to what we're doing in technology and Coach RX. So a lot of the stuff that we're doing as we open up new features and capabilities and stuff like that, we're going to be teaching against things a little bit differently. Not principally differently, but like executionally differently because now we have this tool that we're asking coaches on Thursdays to go in and to implement inside of. So a lot of refining will happen even over the next couple weeks as we get ready to go hit rewind and go right back to week one. But yeah, I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to it.
I wanted to actually, well, ask you about this to share a little bit because I don't know that it's obvious to everyone, but we're very intentional about keeping the cohort small and intimate for a lot of reasons. Obviously, going through the 10 weeks, you want to be able to pour as much value as you can into every coach participating. But I know that you also go through the intake from all these coaches and are thinking about their specific situations and how you can tailor the curriculum to meet them where they're at. So if you could share any of your thoughts about how you go about doing that and personalizing it, because that does make it different every time you go through it.
Yeah, for sure. So, before we kick off week one, I always look at the intake forms just to see like who are these coaches that are coming on board. And I used to do this like on week one, and I would just like ask a series of questions, and I'd have like Ashley, take those and send me results, and then I'd look through them after week one. But now we're doing like this intake. We're taking our own advice and we're doing intake for coaches that are coming in. Um, it's good because the principles are the principles are the principles, and I say that where it's like, hey, what you're going through digitally, like we are not reinventing the wheel there. It's like go through the digital content. Those are the principles, but we can add a lot of flavor in terms of how we lecture and how we speak to these coaches. And it should be obvious, right? Like, but we should start to position and point the way that we talk, the things that we talk about specifically, and bringing those principles into reality to meet those coaches where they are based on who they are, how long they've been coaching, what models they're coaching in, what their experiences are. But the most important thing, what they're looking to get out of the cohort. So we ask that a lot. So I think that's the most powerful question or answer that we're armed with as instructors to be like, okay, here's their problem. How can I take these principles that we're going to teach and kind of point it to these, three or four, usually it's like three or four main themed problems that coaches are trying to solve when they come in. So yeah, that's one of the big reasons why. There's other reasons too, just the new structure and all that, but that's one of the main reasons as to why we do want to keep it tight, right? It's like, we just came off of excuse if I'm going a little bit too deep here, Candace, but we just came off of 2 days of just like our team planning, like our annual planning, and we talked about the OPEX method and game plan for that, and what we want to continue to like evolve this thing into. And we just made it really clear, right? It's like we like the goal with this education isn't to like scale this thing beyond belief. The goal is to help as many coaches as we can, the best we can. So the best we can is really, really important, because if we had 140 and not 40, we couldn't help them the best that we can. So, we even talked about it from, how our advisors are talking to them on the front end. It's like, no, 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 we want to build a relationship with these coaches from the very first time they jump on a call to see if this education is right for them. And then we want to continue to build on that as we take them through the 10 weeks and beyond of the education. So maybe not the best business approach in terms of like scalability and stuff like that, but our intentions aren't that from an education standpoint to just scale to the moon. The intentions from an education standpoint are to connect and impact. So yeah, we're going to keep it really tight, and that's all relative to how many assistant instructors we have, not overloading them, us still being able to tell coaches like come off mute and interrupt us when we're talking. Like we want that feel to exist into the future. So yeah, a lot of reasons why we want to keep it tight.
Yeah. And the last thought just connected to that, because courses are at a point where they have to evolve because information is so accessible, right? It's like anyone can look up the basics of coaching principles, but the application, the speed to implementation, the personal guidance based on where you're at, like those are the things that matter most. So I love that. And also, this came up in office hours, just the importance of surrounding yourself with a small group of other coaches who are committed to that aim of mastery, who are in different phases of implementation, and who are asking questions that you may not know to ask, but then you're exposed to that through this process and able to connect with peers who can help you through the process. So I thought that was really great that they even realized that that was the value in office hours.
Yeah. Yeah, we should this will be my last point. I'm done, I promise. But we should really think about languaging our education, how we educate. Like we are not disseminators of knowledge, we're disseminators of wisdom. And you can only be a disseminator of wisdom if you've done it yourself, you've experienced it. It's not just us as instructors, right? It's like the coaches that are on with us, our assistant instructors, all of that. But it's like you can't disseminate wisdom if it's just like, here's this information, consume this information, and like good luck going and applying that in the real world, right? And I'm not bashed, like knowledge is extremely important. That's what our digital content is, right? Our digital content is knowledge, right? This cohort process, these 3 touch points every week, it's like our aim is to disseminate as much wisdom as we possibly can. So just something for us to think about in terms of like how we language education, and just for any coach that might watch this in the future. It's like that's our goal, is to make sure you understand the principles and the knowledge, but it's even more important to us to understand how to apply those in real life in your circumstances and whatever you're doing as a coach.
Yep, absolutely. Lastly, just to close us out, if you're watching this on, you could be on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. But if you head over to the YouTube channel, you'll not only see all of the previous weeks where Carl and I have done this wrap up, uh, kind of guiding you through what we're working on with the coaches and sharing some insights so that you can hopefully make some implementation along the way with us. You'll also find Dr. David Skolnick, who's also a strength coach at DPT, who went through the full 10 weeks as well. He shared a weekly vlog going through his perspective and what he's learned and how he's applying these things to his practice. He's been coaching for 10 years, so he's a seasoned coach already, but you can see the types of insights that he's even having going through this process. And then lastly, check out opexfit.com on the blog. There's not only each video embedded from David, but a blog that supports that if maybe you prefer to read through and scan through the process or want to really dig deeper into some of the insights that David has shared going through week by week. We go a little deeper in the blog as well. So be sure to check out those resources. And again, even if you have just the slightest bit of inkling or interest that this might be something that will be helpful for you, just jump on a call with the education team because I think they'll be able to add a lot of clarity for you. And if in fact it's not the right time, definitely share some helpful resources with you. So thanks for hanging with us. We appreciate you guys. Happy holidays, and we will see you soon.
See you guys.